This video is sponsored by Sunflex UK. If you watch the channel regularly, you know that I offer consultations to people with properties in the UK, and sometimes I make videos about those properties. I was approached by a client in September who wanted my advice before buying this house in England. They needed to know if it could be altered and extended. The client had a maximum construction budget of £150,000 and wanted to rearrange the internal layout. They also asked me if a two-storey extension was feasible, with more living space on the ground floor and another bedroom upstairs. Most people who book a consultation already have an idea of what they want. They just need me to discuss their options, check their ideas, and assess their budget. It's an unusual site, built at the back of older properties. I looked up the local planning portal and found there had been a number of unsuccessful planning applications on this site before they eventually got permission to build the house in 1993. The larger house next door was built a decade later. One thing that worried me was that I couldn't find building regulations approval for the house. This probably exists, but I advised my client to have their lawyer confirm this before making an offer on the property. If you don't know the difference between a planning application and building regulations approval, I made a video explaining the difference and there's a link in the description. It took the original developer several attempts to get planning approval, but because it was 30 years ago, the council's online portal no longer hosted the drawings and planning officer's reports, so I wasn't able to work out why the planners refused those earlier applications. Given the site is so narrow, I suspect overlooking of neighbours' gardens and rear rooms would be an issue, but I couldn't work out why the house was built so far back from the road. The council's planning portal didn't have drawings, but they did still have a red line map showing the site boundary from the original application. You can see the site extends out to the public road, but the front part of the site has this row of lock-up garages. It's worth noting that the boundary line on a planning application can include land outside the applicant's ownership, and land inside the red line can be subdivided at a later date. The red line seems to include two of the existing garages as part of our site, but the others are separate. I'm guessing that whoever originally owned the site subdivided the title deeds to keep them apart, but this creates a problem. There must be a right of access for those garages from the public road, and the same must be true for the big house next door, and for this plot enclosed by the brick wall, and possibly for the rear of these properties along the street. Shared private roads and driveways are not unusual, but they can cause problems when utilities are buried under them. If the gas, water, electricity and sewage run under this part of the site, what happens if they need to be maintained? I suspect all the neighbours will have to give permission because digging up that narrow access will block all of them from the public road until the work is finished. Costs for this kind of work are often shared, but it can be difficult to get every property owner to pay their share. I told my client to have their lawyers check the title deeds to work out what obligations the site has to maintain that access and how maintenance costs will be split with the other properties. Then there's the mystery around the plot of land behind this wall with the metal spikes. My client wondered if it might belong to a utility company. There doesn't appear to be any large structures in the site, but there could be pipes buried under the ground. Again, I told him have his lawyer find out who owns this. Leaving all that aside, what could be done to make this house bigger? Let's start with the internal layout. The existing ground floor has a cellular layout, and this could be changed to create an open-plan kitchen living dining space. I'm a big fan of getting more from any existing layout before considering an extension. Because the top floor is less than 4.5 metres above external ground, the level of fire risk is low, so it would be feasible to have the stairs within an open plan space. I looked at the possibility of converting the loft, but the roof is far too low. I used the old trick of counting the bricks to work out the height, and assuming the ceiling joists are about 200mm thick, there's only about 1.5 metres of headroom in that roof. I previously made a video about loft conversions. It's much more challenging than people imagine. There's a link in the description. The existing top floor layout is tricky to change because of the location of the stairs. Remember, we can't put windows on the side because that would overlook the neighbours. But if the ground floor layout were made open plan, we could move the stairs. That would allow the bathroom to get much bigger and be changed to a bedroom. The building regulations require bedrooms to have windows, but bathrooms don't need natural light. We could then build an extension to the rear and push the two existing bedrooms further out, creating a space in the middle for a new bathroom to replace the one we turned into a bedroom. The two-storey extension would also mean more space on the ground floor, but making the floor plan deeper means it could get darker inside. So the answer is to fit the biggest patio doors you can find And that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in. Sunflex UK design and manufacture aluminium doors and windows in the UK. I've used Sunflex products on many of my own projects and they offer a great balance between cost and quality. Check out this video I made about their sliding corner patio doors, including the cost. I put a link up here and in the description. But how much would this house extension cost? These drawings from the estate agent aren't to scale, but I estimate the new space is about 17 square meters on each floor. That's 34 square meters in total. The going rate for a basic but competent house extension is about £3,000 plus VAT per square meter. So that would come to just over £100,000 plus VAT for the extension. Yes, we count both floors. The internal alteration, new kitchen and bathroom units and any changes to the electrics, drainage and heating would be additional. All in, it could easily cost £150,000 plus VAT, which would put it beyond the client's budget. I did suggest that since the house is set so far back from the road, the usual rules about extending to the front could reasonably be challenged. Even if they didn't extend to the front, I would like to create a more useful garden out here because it faces south. The big takeaway from this is that unusual sites make for risky purchases. The original owner had a battle to get planning approval 30 years ago and might face a challenge selling the house now. Nothing jumps out as insurmountable, but many of the issues wouldn't be present in a more conventional suburban house. So there you have it. I was able to give this client reasonable advice on what was possible before they bought it. If you want to discuss a property, whether you own it or not, you can book a consultation on the reallifearchitect.co.uk website. I've put a link in the description, but please read the terms and conditions before you book. My name is Neil, and I make videos about the reality of altering and extending private homes in the UK, as well as content about the construction industry and the architecture profession. If you like the sound of that, please subscribe to the channel.